All right, welcome to the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. Jim Riley here with my partner, Rod Kuntz. Another
Morning,
great
Jim.
show. How you doing?
Great, thanks.
We're just talking about how busy things have been this week here in Montana and taking meetings outside of our normal circle and getting back in the groove of things. It feels good, doesn't it?
It does. It does. There's always something else to do. There's more to do. It's getting it done. And there's value in just getting it done.
100%. You know what's bizarre? I went through this cycle yesterday in my mind. It's the fear of the unknown. And so, back in my corporate life, I traveled around the world, 2 or 3 locations a week, whether that's, continental US or Canada, Holland, whatever that looked like. I booked tons of flights, tons of hotels, rental cars, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've been out of that game now for probably 5 years, by choice, by the way. I'm going to be at a speaking event in New Jersey at the end of the month. And yesterday I started looking for flights and trying to figure out the rental car and the hotel. I was so intimidated. I was like, well, how does this work again? I mean, is this the right flight? Is this how I want to go? Is this the right air? I was so out of the game. I was intimidated. I wound up not booking the flight. I got to do it today. But it's interesting when we step away, how much we forget and lose.
Absolutely.
Right? You got to stay in the game.
Yep.
You got to stay in the game.
That's a great point. And it's amazing how fast we can atrophy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just, if you stop working out or if you stop eating healthy, it doesn't take long to have all those gains erased.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same in business. It's the same with any skill. You've got to be in the game.
Now, booking my flight today as opposed to yesterday, and maybe I picked the wrong airport or whatever, it's not that consequential. I might have saved a few extra bucks, but I think the bigger point, by the way, this is not the topic for the day, but I think the bigger point here is the atrophy that you just talked about. It takes a daily push to achieve success. And if you let things ride too long, especially your health, if you let it ride too long, you're going to find yourself in a spot that you don't want to be.
Right. And it's harder to get out of that spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, climbing back out of that hole. Once you don't live in that hole anymore and you fall back in, it's harder to get back out. Which, by the way, is why on our new platform that we'll be announcing the details very soon, there is a critical task list to help keep you out of that hole.
Right. Yeah, I'll tell you that it's funny you mentioned the hole, because what we've always heard is, well, you're in a rut, right? Yeah. I'll tell you, the world looks different from the top of the rut than from the bottom of the rut. When you're in that hole, there's a lot of darkness. Mm-hmm. It can be sunny and warm and balmy and beautiful, but if you're in the rut, and the deeper the rut, the more darkness you have around you.
That's right.
So, man, claw your way out of the rut. Keep your eye on the light and get yourself back to where the view is better.
That's why I live life in my mind in a trophy truck off-road racing vehicle, which bounces off the top of the ruts at 120 miles an hour. I don't even get in them. I'm just flying across the top.
Over the top.
Over the top. Okay. I do have a topic for today, and it's something that I've been thinking about all week. I just finished reading a book by Y.E.S. Watson, and it's called Non-Negotiable. It's about his 10 years incarcerated, creating the unbreakable mindset. Now, if you follow Wes, his Instagram is Watson_fit. Facebook is WatsonFit760. Anyways, he's a coach, and you can expect that the language you're going to get from Wes is going to be some of the worst. I mean, he was in the California penitentiary in the most terrible environment you can imagine for 10 years. And he'll tell you he deserved it. He brought that upon himself, dealing drugs and violent crime and all that other stuff. But what he talks about in this book is what I want to talk about today. And that is the daily discipline. We kind of touched on this already about the being in the rut. The daily discipline it takes to find happiness and success in your life. That on top of that discipline, you can develop your wins throughout the day as a habit. And this is part of the reason why we have a task list. And it's also why I've talked about, since I've had this show, my podcast, the other one, is having your goals and your values, but having a sense of gratitude. Waking up in the morning, writing down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for, because you start your day off with a win. Moving from there into, maybe it's a workout, some meditation, something healthy, and moving from there into potentially a breakfast, reading a book, something positive. And then eventually, because it's going to happen, getting around to your phone and your emails and your social media and all that other stuff that starts bringing a little toxicity into your mind. The reason why I want this to be the topic today, Rod, is that I feel like we know some people that are in a rut, that can't get out, that are searching and trying to find an answer to their problems. And, the answer's there. But what happens is, and you also said this, when you're in that rut, when you're deep in that rut, it's harder to climb out. And I'm worried that these people don't even look at the small wins that they can accomplish to kick off their day, that will develop a pattern of winning that will set them on track to do the bigger things that they want to do. Right. And I know that people will trivialize, well, what's the value? Let's just say they're down and out. I spoke to a gentleman yesterday. He lost 2 $300 deals. I'm not sure the circumstances around it, but he can't pay his rent now. Basically, he lost $600. It's March 9th. Won't be able to pay his rent. And he is stuck, right? He is frozen in time with worry and, what am I going to do? And I gave him a solution on the spot of what he can do. Based on what little I know about him and what skill set he has, I gave him a solution on the spot. Instead of being paralyzed in his seat, he has some actionable items. And if he's listening to the show, I hope that he started those actionable items today, because these small wins every day will get you to the bigger stuff. But if he sits there paralyzed, dwelling on the negative that happened yesterday instead of what he can be doing today, even if it's just being grateful, hey, I've got a car, I've got a roof over my head, I've got the ability to go get a meal, okay, I've got my phone and the internet, like I can go do some stuff here. That's about all you really need to start pulling yourself out of that hole. And we need to get out of our own ways to do that. Don't get lost in your regret and your paralyzation of what's 30,000 feet above you, when you can get some small wins, build some habits there, start your day off with some positive momentum, and then start checking the boxes towards changing your life and being that person that you want to be. And it's not going to happen overnight. People they think everything's going to happen right away. It takes time and patience, but a little bit each day will get you there. And Rod, I'm concerned that people don't see the value in these little wins to get to the bigger one. What do you think?
Jim, I think you're absolutely right. And part of this is a cultural phenomenon. And we are in such an instant gratification world today. If you want something, it's fast food. You can go do that. If you want to do this, it's at your fingertips. You want to know the answer to a question, Google it. We're used to instant gratification. And unfortunately, let's just go back in time to the reality of what it takes to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, it requires planning and intention and discipline and work, right? If you wanted to eat, you can either go forage for berries, which takes planning, looking at the weather. You need to get ready. You need to know where stuff is. You need to know when it's going to ripen. If you're going to go foraging, you need to know certain things. And then you still have to make a plan and do it. And then we went to agriculture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then planning was even more important. Then you had to plan and sow and reap and harvest and then start doing your product. I mean, this is all business. Life is business, right? And it's not instant gratification. It never has been, and it never will be, despite all the messaging that we get.
Mm-hmm.
And your story with this gentleman was, I think, pretty appropriate too for being down in a rut, because there are two things that have to happen when you're in a hole. Well, they don't have to happen. You can stay in the hole. You have a choice to stay in the hole. And you can talk to all the people who are in the hole with you and feel good about their misery and yours, because you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
Because we're social creatures. And that's what people tend to do. But you can do two things. You can start digging the steps to get you up out of that rut. And while you're looking up, you can find somebody who can maybe throw you a rope, like you did to this gentleman yesterday. So he's got actionable steps, but one of those actionable steps is looking up and reaching out to ask for help.
Oh, yeah.
And that is so critical. And in this day and age where everyone wants their individuality and what they do is more important, we have less people reaching out. You know, they reach out to their social media influencers, right? They'll go there for tips and help, as opposed to just looking at their personal network or communicating with his landlord, perhaps. Let's start there. Did you have a conversation? Did you tell him the reality of what it is, and you're not just a deadbeat, but you lost a couple of deals and you're going to do it? Will he work with you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, let's get back to the basics of human engagement. And can we start there?
Well, one of the things that resonated with me in Wes's book here, Non-Negotiable, he said, if you want to succeed, start taking away the pleasures in life that you think that you deserve and drill into what it is that you really want. And you know, he gives the perfect example because he's in prison. He's like, look, I'm here in prison. I have nothing. Everything has been taken away from him. And he made a choice to stay clear of the trouble in prison, the drugs, the alcohol, the contraband, take away all those pleasures, even more pleasures, you know, that he could take away than just being in prison, right? For a higher cause. And for him, that was to develop the discipline to be a better human being that became somebody that would help others and be a positive light for change. And the way that he developed that was by taking away the pleasures in life. Now, I don't know this gentleman that I spoke to yesterday, what pleasures in life he has, or what luxuries in life he has, or even some of the others that I'm thinking about. But if you want real change, start looking at some of these pleasures that you can take away to work towards your greater good, your goal, you know? So maybe you skip that Friday night at the bar with the buddies and the beers, and you stay home and you work on your business plan, or you make a few more sales calls, or you study a little bit harder for that test, you know, to become a pilot, whatever it looks like, right? You start taking away small pleasures to work towards your goals instead. And we live in a society that it's all about, you know, the here and now and what I have and what I can do, instead of making some sacrifices for their success. And the other half of that, I think, is not only taking away the pleasures, but putting our ego aside, right? And like you suggested, ask for help, right? Take a step off the pedestal, ask for help if you really are suffering. And get that, like you said, maybe somebody can hand a rope down to you and get you out of the rut.
Yeah. And sometimes the rope is already there.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to look for it, feel for it, and then you still have to grab it. Ultimately, you still have to do something, right? Mm-hmm. Someone's not going to come and bail you out. You still have to do something. And I don't know, Jim, I think that this is, it's almost a cultural malaise that we're in. You know, we're kind of redefining our purpose as human beings in this new age that we live in, where everything is given to us and we have these expectations that truly are not realistic anymore. And I think we have an obligation for the next generation to get that pendulum to swing back to a normal place so that we're not hanging out there.
Yeah. And I think part of this, the problem, I don't even know if it's generationally. I think it's just society, that we feel that we're obligated to certain things, right? That we should be given certain things for whatever reason, right? A raise, we talked about a raise before we got online. We should be given a raise by our employer. We should be given accolades for our achievements. Those things aren't guaranteed. Even if you earn them, they're not guaranteed. But it doesn't mean we should get down on ourselves and feel less than because we're not getting the raise or getting an accolade or a pat on the back. We know we did a good job. Right. We know that we put in the time to build our businesses, right? We know that we spend our hour in the gym every day, to have the physical fitness and health that we have. We shouldn't be doing it for the accolades. We should be following our game plan, right? Our values, our goals, and not worry about what society thinks of us or what they're willing to give us for our own personal achievements. Right? I mean,
absolutely.
I've never worked for an employer or signed a contract where it says, we will give you a pat on the back if you do a good job. We will give you accolades in public if you do a good job. No, what it does say is we will pay you X amount of dollars every 2 weeks on the 1st and the 15th, and you'll get these health benefits, and please go do the job. Here's your job description, right? Nowhere have I ever seen we will give you a pat on the back.
That's a bonus. That's a bonus that's unearned, and it shouldn't be expected.
So I have somebody else in my work life. They just hired a new employee, flew the employees into town for their first day orientation, got through the whole day. And the new employee says to the owner, hey, I should be transparent with you. My wife and I have a new kid, and we don't have a nanny. My wife works 9 to 5. So I'm going to be a little bit limited on how much I can do for you. Now, let me explain. This was a full-time job. Okay. Wow. So the owner says, okay, right, with a big pause. So does that mean from 5:30 p.m. to 2 a.m., you and I can go grind it out and we can get the job done? And the guy says, well, I suppose maybe once in a while. I mean, so when is he available? You took a full-time job. You were flown to a different state for orientation. You went through a whole day, and all of a sudden you decide to be transparent. This is what I'm getting at, is that we as a society, as employees, feel like we're need to be given something, like we're blessing these employers with our presence or by saying yes to the job, and we're owed all these things. You're not owed these things, and employers are going to get real smart to this type of thing as this trend continues, and you're going to find other people rising to the occasion, succeeding. You'll be left out in the cold wondering what to do, because how long are employers going to allow this to happen?
It's non-sustainable. Period.
Non-sustainable.
And it's interesting you bring that up, because our other partner, Rachel, brought a topic for us to discuss at some point, and I hope she does, on one of our Monday night calls, where she was talking about this exact thing with all the people who are working from home, right? That the businesses that are paying them to work from home are not getting the value out of those people.
That's right.
People are slacking off, and their expectations have been lowered. I don't know what gave them the idea that they could get away with the minimum instead of the regular, right? I'm not even talking about maximum. How about let's just give you the regular, what you signed on for. But this gets back to that whole cultural thing we're in right now. There's been a shift, and it's not a good one. And it's a non-sustainable shift.
Absolutely. And not to get into the politics of Twitter, but, just look at Elon Musk taking over and how many people he laid off that have not been replaced. But yet Twitter works the same for me as it did before. Right. I'm not on there enough to know if it's better or worse, but to me, it works the same. And I'm sure that Elon Musk is saving a ton of money. And that's just a gross example in the press. I mean, I know that there's a lot of companies out there that are doing the same because they're not getting the value out of their people working from home. I love hearing companies that say, we're bringing our employees back. They're now required to work 40 hours a week in the office.
Right.
And why not? They're getting paid.
Absolutely. Why not?
So let's flip this conversation a little bit, because I think it's important. If you are looking to be a successful intrapreneur or an entrepreneur, what are the key takeaways here to think about, right? And so what I would say is that life is hard, and it's going to require a lot of hard work. It's going to require you to stack your wins every day, whatever that looks like, build your momentum until you get to the hard tasks, and then grind through those hard tasks and keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And when you look back, you'll realize that you've achieved something special. Utilize your values and your goals to make decisions. Understand that you're not owed a single thing outside of what's on that contract if you're an employee. But if you're an entrepreneur, you're not guaranteed a single thing. You have to go out. I like to say you eat what you kill, right?
Yes.
And if you're not giving it your all, if you're not sacrificing some pleasures or your ego to go get it, then you should not expect it, because it's not going to come. And maybe there might be the rare occasion, the 1%er out there that lands on something big and didn't realize what they had. But that is a rarity.
Right.
And all those things that you see on social media, the guys flying in the jets and the Lambos and everything else and the beautiful, that stuff is not the reality. They're posting the good stuff. They're not posting the grind in between. And I'll tell you right now, like I told that gentleman yesterday, because he's telling me, Jim, it's hard. Like, I got to find this. I said, look, dude, I've been in business, and by the way, he's not a dude. He's probably 72. I said, look, I grind every day to make money for my family. I don't let up. I don't care what I have in the bank, right? Or what I feel like I can go do as pleasures in life. I grind every day. That's, to me, the important part of being an entrepreneur and a business owner. You don't have the luxury of not doing what I've, committed to doing. He's like, wow, okay. I know what he was hoping for. Let me help you out. Let me give you the rope and a pile of cash to get out of your problems. I gave him something better.
Right.
I taught him how to get out of his hole, and I gave him a roadmap to do it. And I'm holding him accountable. So that's my message for today, Rod. I just want people to understand, stack your wins, build some discipline, deny yourself some pleasures if you want to get there. Really evaluate your life. Write down what it is that you want, what you have, what you can be grateful for, and how you're going to get there. Build yourself your own roadmap, or just don't expect to be there in general, because you're not willing to put in the work. I can't help but going back to Y.E.S in prison. This guy gets up at 2:30 in the morning to start his workout. And he's a big dog on the cell block. So not only does he get up, but he makes all the other white boys get up and do the same thing. His words, not mine. And do the same thing to make people better. Think about the discipline. Yeah. Actually, a little quick sidebar, because I work out a lot and it's important to me. If you understand the best way to lose weight is to not only exercise, but it happens in the kitchen.
Sure.
You want to eat your body weight in protein grams, basically, if you want to build some muscle and shed some fat. In prison, I found this pretty interesting, and it showed his level of dedication to me. In prison, you get very small meal rations. And of those meal rations, only a small portion of it is actual protein. So what he did to hit his macros for the day is every single meal he traded out. And I think he said 5 favors to fellow inmates to get their protein ration so that he can get his intake. And I don't know what those favors look like or what he's trading for that, but every single day, 3 meals a day to trade out favors to get your macros and protein, that's commitment. Right?
And sacrifice.
And sacrifice to a goal, sacrificing pleasures, right?
Yes.
Let me give up my brownie off my plate to get another ration of dry chicken, but it's got the protein I need to hit the goals that I have, right? If we could take on even 1% of that level of discipline, right? And this guy's in a place where the last thing he probably wants to do is, focus on the positive, right? And I just think it's a really great black and white picture. I hope I never find myself in that situation, but we're capable of so much as humans. We just got to dig a little deeper.
And we have to be appreciative for what we have.
Mm-hmm.
We just, and that's where it begins. Those little wins that you started off the conversation with, you just have to appreciate what you've been given. Appreciate that you've been born here and not in the middle of a jungle somewhere, right? This is still the greatest country in the world, and in a century where we have every perfect and wonderful gift given to us if we just appreciate it and go to work.
Yeah.
Go to work. Lower your, if you think you're entitled to something, here's my advice to you. Lower your expectation. That's it.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Good topic, Jim.
I think that's a wrap. If you didn't get the message, listen to this over again. And if it resonates with you, we'd love to have you in the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate as a member. We've got some exciting news coming out in about a week about our platform and what we're offering there. And I think our current members are going to be thrilled. And I know people will be lining up to get involved once they start seeing what we're doing and the investments we're making in other people and the tools that we have. If you like this show, please share it. We do this at least once a week, and we're pushing out similar messages. And Rod, we call these the soft essential skills, I think is what we landed on.
Yes.
Because these are the things not often taught in business. The hard skills you probably already possess, or you have a good idea what those are. But these are the soft essential skills that are not taught, that are equally, if not more important. And that's why we call them essential to your success and who you are. So thank you for listening. Rod, any closing comments before we shut this thing down?
Just real quick, this just came to mind. These soft skills are intuitive, which I think is why people overlook them so much. We all know what they are, but we need to be reminded of them. And like any skill, it's a soft skill. You have to work at it and practice. And that's what we're here to do.
That's right.
It's fun for us. Hop on board.
Right on. Thanks, Rod. We look forward to seeing everybody, whether that's on YouTube watching this or on the podcast channel or in the membership group. Take care.